Nguyelo numandenga, nguyelo numandenga, nguyelo umandenga, ngumutilo.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AfricaNEV podcast. Today, we are talking about the African electric vehicle ecosystem with a focus on maintenance and repairability, because there is this issue out there where people are concerned and worried about, do we have the skills necessary to maintain, number one, and two, repair electric vehicles on our beloved continent. And today, on the AfricaNEV podcast, we have a special guest who is eminently qualified to talk about this thing with us. So today, our special guest is Taurai Sewera. Have I called you correctly?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
It's Taurai. It's Taurai.
Taurai Raymond
Exactly.
Sewera. Okay.
Yes.
A master EV technician. Taurai,
Yeah.
welcome to the AfricaNEV podcast.
Thank you so much. This is my first time. Such
Yes.
an honor.
And hopefully the last.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yes.
I hope so.
Taurai, so tell us a bit about yourself. I mean, who is Taurai?
So I grew up in a high density, more like a single mother in a way, because my father was always away. Like he used to work for, companies. Like he was a mechanic himself. He was a mechanic.
Okay. Taurai, you keep breaking though. I don't know what service you are using.
No, the service that I'm using is a hotspot, because the problem is there's something that happened to the internet today. Like a couple of hours, I was trying to sort it out. So I'm using my phone. If every time someone calls me, then it disturbs the hotspot, because I'm using my laptop and my phone.
Oh, okay.
And I hope they are not going to call. So let's go ahead. So I grew up, like I said, in high density and single mother. Grew up through we're so poor. When we grew up. So I went to high school. I went to one of the best high schools here. It was a private school, because my mother tried to do the best she could for me. And but after graduating from high school, I just went into the industry just like that. I think I was 18 years old or something like that. So from there, I became a self-taught automotive technician, basically, because I didn't go to any college, I didn't go to any school to do this. I think I was just born with it. Because realizing my father was a technician himself, he was an automotive technician. They were automotive mechanics then, but there were no computers. So it was always in me. So it was good. It was always easy for me to figure out things. Even if I tear apart the transmission, I would just figure it out, just like that. So I became more like a household name as a self-employed technician, being subletted by big companies. They were giving me transmissions. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, all right. So they were giving me transmissions. They were giving me differentials to do repairs. So in 2015, prior to that, 2008, I believe, because I don't want to remember this, my son passed away. He was 3 years old. So the maid was chasing him. He was holding a knife, a kitchen knife, more like a table knife, but a sharp one. So the maid was chasing him to get the knife, and he fell, and the knife went through his left eye, and it went straight through to the brain. So wow. 10 days later, he passed away. After that, I became an alcoholic, because he was my second born. My first born is Chantel. She's now 22 years old. So Russell was his name. He was supposed to be 15 years today. So he passed away at the tender age of 3 years old. He was super intelligent guy. Because I used to own maybe 6, private vehicles, like passenger cars. You used to know every single name of the car. Like I used to own a Toyota Cressida and that kind of stuff. And he would tell you when you're driving around like city, you're driving, he would tell you, I did look at that Cressida. He knew cars. It's 3 years old. I've got and I was blessed to have other kids after him. but they were never at his level of intelligence. So to cut the long story short, I became an alcoholic, and I used to drink a lot of beer, and I damaged my pancreas. So I became a chronic pancreatitis guy. And in 2015, I stopped drinking beer because I actually prayed about it. Then I started going to church. So about a month or two into going to the church, being a Christian, born again guy, it just came to me that I needed to speak to God and tell him my desires. Then I made a prayer that I wanted to be one of the greatest technicians on the planet. And I told him that because I told him, look here, you gave me the talent because I actually was living a good life. My daughter actually went to a private school, one of the most expensive in Zimbabwe. So, I mean, but I wasn't employed, I was self-employed, you know, so it wasn't me, it wasn't my intelligence or anything. It was his grace and mercy, you know what I mean? So I knew I was drinking beer, but I knew God was there. And when he took my son, I realized that I'm not in control of my life. So I realized that, I gotta bow down to this guy. He's the greatest. He's a Messiah. Because what happened then, it happened in the house where the gate was locked, and I thought my family was safe, and I thought I was taking care of my family. And he proved to me that you cannot take care of a family. This is not your family. You are my family, all of you. You know what I mean? You are all my kids. You know what I mean? I'm just a guardian, you know, of my kids. You know what I mean? So the man himself took his son, you know. So I prayed about it. Then 2 weeks later, my friend came. Yeah, you know, he used to work for the former president, Jim Gabi. He was a chief photographer. So he came to me and said, Taurai, because I used to repair his trucks. He used to own some trucks here. He came to me and said, Taurai, I dreamt last night, and you were the car doctor. So we are going to United Nations in the States. So I was thinking of bringing you the toolbox that you always talk about, like the big toolboxes. You know what I mean? Okay. So to cut the long story short, he went to the States and brought me my first toolbox, a Craftsman. That was a 52-inch. That's a big, massive toolbox. You know, since then I started buying tools. And I've invested a lot of money in buying tools. You know what I mean? From 2015 to 2020, I was just still buying tools. You know, so this changed me. And in 3 weeks after my friend came, I saw a video on YouTube where a very known instructor in the States called Jim Morton was teaching ignition waveforms, you know, ignition waveforms using an oscilloscope. I was super interested with the technology. I was like, what's that? You know what I mean? I'd love to learn this. I can do this. You know what I mean? So when he starts his class on YouTube video, he writes his email on the blackboard or on the whiteboard, whatever you can call it. So he wrote his email for the students he was teaching in class, so that they can follow through if they have a problem or they have a question in concern with the class that he was teaching. So I wrote him an email, and fortunately enough, 4 days later he replied. You know what I mean? So he says, because I actually mentioned in the letter that Mr. Morton, I'm super excited. I'm from Zimbabwe, blah, 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 self-taught technician. My dream is to become one of the greatest technicians on the planet. And if there's a way you can help me with the information or, training material, because I was just thinking you could send me material to start, you know what I mean, and better myself, you know what I mean. I wasn't thinking of just going to the States then. Then he says, Taurai, it's unfortunate that you're from Africa, because for you to become one of the greatest on the planet, you gotta play with the greatest. And the greatest attend the biggest and best automotive training event called Vision High-Tech Training. It's held in Kansas City in Missouri every year for the past 25 years. That was 2017. Yeah, that was 2016 around November, thereabout. So you are saying this event is held every year in March for the past 27 years, 25 years then, because now it's 27 or 28 years, because this is my 4th year going there. Like I just wanted to accelerate so that you understand. So Mr. Morton invited me to come to Vision High-Tech Training through a lady called Cheryl Hamilton. Cheryl Hamilton is a managing director of Vision High-Tech Training. And she said, Taurai, when I wrote an email to her as well, because I was referred to her, so that maybe she can facilitate some papers for me to get a visa. Then she says, Taurai, we are super excited because there's no one from Africa who's ever attended this event.
Really?
So yeah, so I became the first African ever to attend the event. Even up to now, there's not any African who has attended the event. So I went to Vision, I did training, got my first day in class, and that was my first ever class in my life. You know what I mean? I never went to any other class except the one is the best event on the planet. So I was overwhelmed with the information and the depth of the information. I'll tell you, I was very confused the whole day. And I was actually in tears all the time because I realized that we break around in Africa thinking that we know a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? When we're back here. And I realized we don't know a damn thing. When they started teaching this guy, I was like, are they teaching anything to do with automotive? I asked the other guy who was next to me, he was a white guy. By the way, I was the only black person to attend that event then. There were over 5,000 professionals, all white from all over the world. So they were not even black Americans when I attended the first Vision in 2017. So the next day, I kind of caught up, but there was nothing because the terminologies that they use in the professional automotive industry is different from what we do here in Africa, basically in Zimbabwe. When you talk about spanners, we talk about the ring spanner or flat spanner, that kind of stuff, that kind of language. They don't use that kind of language there. It's a box end spanner, offset, something like that, open end, you know what I mean? So I had to start from fresh. Like I had to forget everything that I'd learned for 17 years or so for me to input new stuff in my mind. So I trained my mind to listen and not to what to call it, this word I want to use, not to, all right, it will come. So I prepared my mind to learn. I had to train my mind to absorb, not to be against any or trying to process anything, because that way I can absorb as much as I can, because we are talking about the professionals and the best of the best in the world. Whoever was going to say anything, I knew I was going to benefit later. So I had to just get everything up in there and edited raw and stuff, you know what I mean? I just got everything in there. So Vision, the training so intense, like from 8 to 5, you finish a thick book like this. I'm talking about 300 or 400 pages that you finish in a single day, page by page. They are so fast like that, but we're talking about the latest technology.
Wait, hold on. There's a number of things that I wanted to bring up. This training. So now, what I meant by you have to break it down for us. Okay. The program is meant for professionals. So now, yes. What is the format like? Is it that you all sit 5,000 people in one session and there's one person with a big board who is explaining all these concepts to you with the book, or maybe there's a book and an engine or whatever there, and they are demonstrating as they are talking? That's one question. Another question is, how many days does this run? Okay, because it looks to me like a form of, it sounds to me a form of boot camp. Would you agree? So you come for maybe 5 days, and there's a lot of compressed information. Bang. Knowing full well that you're at a certain level.
So let me answer your first question, which is it one class? No, it's not one class. There are so many classes. So what happens is in November, like now, they are about to open in November for registration. So what you do is you register, then you choose classes. Because there's a pool of classes, different classes. Heavy duty trucks, what have you, brakes, what have you, ignition waveforms, that kind of stuff, oscilloscope training and that kind of stuff. So you choose the classes that you want to go to. They all happen concurrently. They all happen simultaneously. You know what I mean? So sometimes there are 2 good classes that you want to attend at the same time, and they happen at the same time. So you miss the other one because that one is already happening in another class.
Okay.
But I'll tell you one thing: there isn't anything like this on the planet. There isn't anything that I can compare it with. It's out of this world. if you can hold on, I'll just get one book from Vision High Tech Training I can show you on the screen right now.
Okay.
See the thickness. Just hold on, just give me a sec. So that's this.
Alright, let's Daniel. Gasoline direct injection operations and diagnostics. Okay.
Can you see?
Yeah.
So you see
So
how
this
thick it is?
is for 1 day.
1 day. This, you see how thick it is? You see the stuff that we train. Let me just show you something. Let me get to a certain page, then I'll just quickly share with you. You know, this is the stuff that we're training now.
Okay.
That's an in-cylinder waveform. You know, you'll be checking what's happening inside the cylinder using a pressure transducer. You put it, you can remove it's a gasoline vehicle, you remove a spark plug, then you put your pressure transducer. Then you use your oscilloscope software. Then you'll be able to get all these waveforms and analyze them. And you'll be able to tell all the whole story that happened to the engine. You'll be able to tell a valve opening time, you know, valve opening degrees, and you'll be able to tell if there's any leakage in the cylinder. You'll be able to tell a lot of stories. If there is any restriction along down the exhaust system, you'll be able to tell that in one single test.
But you know,
so this is the level that we're talking about.
You know, as we are talking, I'm just thinking. All right. To do this test, you need a certain type of equipment. I am sure.
Huh?
This test that you're talking about, the assumption is that you have a certain equipment that you will need to run these tests.
Yes.
Most Africans, I don't think they have such equipment. But we don't even know what that equipment is.
Exactly. You don't even know. You don't even realize what it is. It's crazy. Let me just quickly show you that one. That's quick here. You see, these are sensors that you'll be checking.
Okay.
Yeah, this is more like current and voltage. What have you? You can actually test a sensor. So you know what an oscilloscope does? An oscilloscope is a digital multimeter, but on steroids. So what it does, it records voltage over time. You know, it records over time. Like you can actually record that in a buffer and rewind and zoom in and see the events as they happened. So you can actually see signals that okay so fast, like in a 50 billionth of a second. That's the speed I'm talking about. Okay. Oscilloscope can capture a signal happens in nanoseconds. That's a billionth of a second. The speed of a signal. You can catch it and rewind it, and you'll be able to tell.
Okay,
so this is the technology you're talking about right there in the States. They've been doing these oscilloscopes for years and years. And yet in Africa, we're in 2020, not a single guy can talk about what I'm talking about today except me. But and we say we want to do an EV, and you tell me you want to do an EV, and there's this stuff that you don't even have an idea of to diagnose cars. Because you're gonna have your vehicle today, you're gonna manufacture your vehicle. The problem that is gonna cause out there, you don't even anticipate them, and you don't wanna think about it. You know, there are stuff that GM can't even figure out on their cars that we figure out because of this kind of training. You know, they can't even figure out that the problem is sometimes they don't anticipate that kind of problem. So there are cars that GM fails to fix and send it to independent technicians like me.
Wait, you mean
the training here?
You mean the manufacturer?
The manufacturer. That's what I'm talking about.
General Motors, not.
Yeah, because the manufacturer doesn't get so deep like this. He's busy making more cars and making more money. He's not worried about what's going to happen with his cop coils and that kind of stuff. His mission stuff that he's put in there. Sometimes when he starts having a problem, he can't even figure out what's going on with that. You know, tell us what happened at the time when my friend Jim Morton, back then when he fixed the problem that was happening. You know, the problem with the certain GM car was that it was always blowing some cop coils. Cop coils were burning. You know, like new cars. I'm talking about new cars. So there was a recall of these new cars, and they couldn't figure out what's causing the problem. Only to realize when you put an oscilloscope that the program that they put in the computer was running too lean and stressing the coils. So the coils were working extra hard, you know, and they're burning themselves. So it was the program that they did that was the problem. It wasn't the parts. So they couldn't figure that out, except when Jim Morton did his ignition waveform and he analyzed and he realized that this thing is running too lean, man. So that's why the coils are burning. So the manufacturer, the designers, they don't.
A configuration problem, basically. Not a design or manufacturing problem. It's a configuration problem.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, so, that's very interesting.
So this is what we need to introduce to Africa. Technology out there is insane, especially when you talk about the United States. You know, I understand a lot of us, we look east and we kind of see, we Google things and, you know, you can't Google this stuff. And I'm telling you, my friend, this is what happens. Let me just quickly tell you something about Vision High-Tech training. The classes are developed by these experienced technicians. Like I'll tell you the examples of Jim Morton has been in the industry for over 45 years. These guys have seen it all. They started with carburetors, they went on to fuel injection. After that, now we are talking about autonomous vehicle, and they're still there. They've been there with the transition. They know better. You know what I mean? This is the guys we need to learn from. He's about 70-something years old. These guys I'm talking about. Most of them, these guys are over 60 years that attend Vision High-Tech training. We're talking about very serious guys in the automotive industry and Hall of Famers in automotive industry. You know, we have a big competition out there that we don't even know. We don't realize that Africa is way, way behind. I'm telling you, my friend, Ged, we gotta step up. You know what I mean? We need training. We need to bring training to Africa. So my goal is to bring Vision High-Tech training to Africa. Then we start training technicians. Then we start talking now.
How much does it cost? Just give us an idea.
The classes will be around $700. Then there is hotel reservations. Because Vision is done 4 days. We start on Thursday up to Sunday in the afternoon. So Thursday morning, 8 o'clock, we're in class. Then we finish on Sunday afternoon.
Okay, so question. Let's say I'm a complete novice. I don't know anything about cars, servicing or repairing. Can I attend a class like this and understand anything?
There are classes for everyone at Vision. There are fundamental classes, like they be teaching fundamentals, oscilloscope fundamentals, whatever, you know what I mean? So there's basically every class for everyone.
Okay. Now let's get back to the heart of the matter. How did electric vehicles enter the picture for you? Because from the explanation you just gave us about your story, it seems that you were into hardcore ICE cars. Okay, it's not like you had a passion. There's no like, oh, I'm saying the environment. No. You're just a mechanical person.
Yeah,
okay.
It's passion. Because with me, since day one, you know, I was working on anything. You know, anything that comes knocking at my door. Because I don't like, in fact, to work on the same thing every time. It becomes boring to me, and I'm a multitasker. You know, at one point I'm working on a BMW, and the next I'm working on a tractor, or the next thing I'm working on a transmission, the same single day. So what happened when I was certifying myself through ASE? By the way, ASE are the most recognized credentials in the world automotive industry. So when I went to Vision,
what is that?
Or ASE stands for National Institution of Automotive Service Excellence.
National Institution of
Automotive Service Excellence.
Okay.
So it's more like these ASEs, like I sent you.
Oh, okay.
Like these pages, you see those, yeah.
So it's an American institution.
Yes, it's an American institution, but it's there in Canada as well, and it's slowly coming to other countries. Like in Australia, they did a pilot test last year.
Okay.
So that's but those are the standards. Even if you have a bachelor degree in automotive industry, you're still gonna take ASE test for you to be recognized better.
So
for you to be more.
Is it an industry association sort of?
Yeah, but it's more like a private institution, non-profit making organization. That was started in 1972.
Okay.
You know, because they wanted to maintain a certain standard of excellence in automotive industry. So they introduced.
Is it a bit like the Society of Automotive Engineers?
Yes, it's more like that, but with lots more, with technicians inside. Lots of people come up with questions. You know, like we're talking about the master techs and all that kind of stuff. They come up with questions. So they're constantly changing questions with technologies as it moves.
Okay. So you're explaining to us how you got into EVs.
Yeah, so I was certifying myself. I was going through all that. You know, I realized that there was even at Vision they were training for hybrid and electrical cars. You know, but it was just new technology, and everyone else is just you know, it's a normal thing. Like, you know, it's too complex. You know, you'd think so. You know, so I started my first thing. I went to a class for hybrid and electrical cars. That's when I got the interest, because with hybrid, it's more like you're talking about the ICE, but with another propulsion.
The electric drive combined.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So you kind of it's not like a unknown territory. It's you be comfortable with it, but you know, here and there you be, you know what I mean. You be said
to be okay. Okay.
So I started doing that. Then I started studying. Got lots of books. There's my friend called Richard Krieger, and a lot of guys donated some books for me. Over 2,000 books that they donated to me, so that I could better myself.
Did you say 2,000 as in 2 and 3 zeros?
Yes.
You must not be an African. Africans, we are famously reading a verse.
Wait until you. Right now, they've got other books that they've already gathered from the greats like James Haldeman. James Haldeman, by the way, he has written over 19 textbooks that are used in colleges in the States in automotive industry. So he has donated most of his material that he used since ever. These guys are over 80-something years. So I'm talking about books from the 60s, 70s, up to today. You know, so they have already gathered some more books that I need a lot of money. I actually need over 7,000 United States dollars just to ship those books. So we're talking about 5,000 plus books that are coming, because I'm going to be opening a school here in Zimbabwe, an automotive technology training school.
So how do you find the time? How do you find the time? Okay, I think I'm getting ahead of myself. So you finish your story. You said that you got interested in hybrid training, and you got the interest for EVs.
Yeah, then I started training through my book, so more like self-taught, because you know what I mean. Then I went on to write some ASE tests. Then I passed the ASE test, and I went to do more training, because they need you to have certain experience for you to become ASE certified. Even if you pass the test and you don't have the experience to match the requirements, you will not get an ASE certification. Even though you pass the test, you gotta
it's supposed to be
have
hands-on demonstration.
Yeah, you gotta be hands-on as well. Then you can actually have your ASE. So I became
it's advanced level certification.
Yeah, so I became an advanced level specialist, which they call L3. That's the biggest level you can ever talk about in terms of hybrid and electrical cars, in terms of ASE certification. That's the L3 that I already have. So when I went to Vision in 2018, I met a certain guy called Isaac Rodizel. So he did a class for ACDC. ACDC is Automotive Career Development Center. They are based in Worcester, Massachusetts. So they do hybrid electrical training since 2000. All they do is hybrid electrical cars only. So it's owned by a guy called Craig Van Battenberg. He's a great guy. He's a great instructor. I think, in my own opinion, he's the greatest hybrid electrical cars instructor on the planet, to my own opinion. Because I actually got an internship in 2018. Then in March 2019, I got an internship to attend training, hands-on training in Massachusetts for 2 months. So because they only select 2 people to get that internship, the whole world. So I became so fortunate. I became the first African and the first Black person to have that internship. So I got the internship last year, and I went to Worcester. 2 months I was fixing hybrid and electrical cars. They own a pool of over 18 cars there, different hybrids and electrical cars. So I was fixing anything that I wanted, tear apart things and put them back together, like I've always done with conventional vehicles. You know what I mean? So I was more like self-teaching myself as well. You know, so I got a lot of training, and I got a lot of training material, because after the training that I did, I actually got over 10 gigabytes of information that I have, that Craig gave me, because it's some stuff that you can't just learn over 2 months. So he gave me all the stuff, and I've got premium access to their site, where they've got all the training since 2000 up to date. So they've got videos and videos and videos, thousands, I think close to 1,000 or so videos there. So I'm fortunate enough to have all this information, exposure, you know what I mean? So my hope is to share this to Africa at a very, very low cost, you know what I mean? If possible, sometimes free, you know. So this is me.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we are, I'm not here alone. We have here the great Olukokun, outstanding Olukokun Tolulope.
Been listening. I'm busy as well. I'm enjoying the conversation. Well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, brother.
Okay. Sammy, you have to say something before we switch gears.
Oh, yeah, I'm also enjoying the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So far, we are Taurai is just introducing himself to us, so we have get a bit about his journey and all that. Now, let us come to brass tacks. Before we even go there, I want to ask a question. Why do you think that a lot of Black people were not in this program? Because from the example you gave, from what you told us, even Black Americans, excuse me, from the example you gave us, even Black Americans were not attending this program. Have you thought about it? You have an answer?
Yeah, I said when I did my first class in 2017, but 2018 they started coming. 2019 I saw a couple, maybe up to 10 or something like that. They're now coming, you know. But what I think is we feel inferior in a way. You know what I mean? I think that was that's exactly what I think the us blacks do. We kind of feel inferior. So you kind of think it's not for us. You know what I mean?
Wait,
that's what I think.
Is that what you were saying on the WhatsApp page? That we look down on ourselves. Is that what you're making reference to?
Yeah, yeah. Even
as we underestimate our ability.
Yes.
Anyway, that is a very emotive point. But now let's talk about the African EV ecosystem. The question I wanted to ask was, first of all, do you think Africa is ready for electric vehicles? And why? Whichever the answer is.
All right. I don't think Africa is ready for electrical cars now, but I think they are ready for hybrid electrical cars. Because full electric car is still very limited, and the infrastructure hasn't been developed enough. And before the infrastructure itself, safety, health and safety regulations, we don't meet the international standards. You know, because you gotta have EMTs who are professionally trained. You gotta have your first responders who are professionally trained and have so much experience for us to start bringing electrical cars. Because these cars are dangerous. Like these people, they think because they handle batteries and play around with them when they're doing modification, it's just something not dangerous. These things are lethal.
You mean the higher voltage systems?
Yes, the high voltage system is lethal, it's dangerous. Because let me tell you one thing, when these cars get involved in an accident, sometimes the lithium doesn't start exploding then. Because lithium can actually start exploding even days or weeks after the accident. So we gotta have the first responders, the EMTs, your police, they have to be trained. All these guys should be trained to handle these electrical cars before we start bringing them, because they're actually very, very dangerous. Can you just imagine when the accident just happens today? You gotta have well-trained guys to extract these guys who will be caught in the accident, like the passengers. Before you do that, you gotta depower the car. You gotta know which car that you're depowering. So you gotta have a system where the first responders go to all the information and they've got access to depower any car that we have here in Africa. So we gotta have all that in place before we start bringing these electrical cars.
You know what you just said. I disagree personally.
Okay.
But be that as it may, this is not a podcast for my opinions.
Okay.
It's your perspective that we want to understand. However,
it's okay if you disagree with me.
No. Hold on.
Let's hear the point.
However, it's about discourse. And for anyone watching the podcast, this is the idea. It's about having conversations, bringing our perspectives, which means that fundamentally there are going to be differences and disagreements. Then we'll see where we can come to a consensus, we do. When we cannot come to a consensus, we can each proceed and see which solution time will prove to be right or wrong. Okay? So it's a very relevant thing. Now, what you said
but before you go, Oged, on this point, when I mean that we are not ready, I'm not saying we can't be ready. We can be ready if we do the safety, the health and safety first. We put this in place, electrical cars can come any day. But you gotta take care of your own people. This is a dangerous car that you just can't let it go around in town, driving around when our EMTs are not trained to handle an accident if it happens today. You gotta think beyond just the fact that you want to save money through fuel or something like that. Or you just want to go on board with everyone else who's saying go green. But you gotta look inside your own country and see, do we have the resources? And do we have the people who are professionally trained to handle these things?
My brother,
do we have enough training to service the car? Do we have enough technicians who are certified to work on this vehicle?
You see, the certification, we go there. But you see, there's a point that you raised in your statement, which is what is bargaining. Because, you see, in large sections of Africa, there are no EMTs, there are no emergency responders to talk of. All right? I don't know about Zimbabwe. I don't know about Zimbabwe.
We do have, and EMT is an emergency technicians, right?
No.
They come with the ambulance. Yeah, they come with the ambulance and they attend.
That is my point. I don't know about Zimbabwe. Olukokun, do you have ambulances in Nigeria? If somebody is pregnant today and they need to rush them, is it guaranteed? No, hold on. I'm asking Olukokun. I want to get something.
Okay.
Olukokun, do you have first responders? There's an accident, or people are put in taxis.
Question.
Is it?
First of all, I mean, it's not a regular system. Can you hear me?
Yes.
There's no system in place that call an emergency line for any emergency to come in. But we have hospitals, road safety, and all of those people that can come and convey such person to the hospital. But there is no regular system. Some of them have, so that when there is an emergency, you know what number to call and they can quickly respond to you. But this is the question I have. Wait, this is the question now. My question is that do you think electric vehicle is not dangerous than gasoline vehicle? I mean, why do you think we need all these emergency responders before we have electric vehicle in Africa? So, because if we are good with petrol and all of that, without any EMTs and all of that, I think we can do well with electric vehicles too. That's what I think.
So, look, my thing is, high voltage batteries can explode. They are not like, I know the conventional vehicles have got fuel and all.
That is the lithium ion ones.
But the tank, but the tank is so contained and the safety on the ice is better. On a conventional vehicle is better. than in electrical cars when they get involved in an accident. The problem becomes a big problem when there is an accident, even a fatal one. That's where the problem is. You know, if the guys are trapped inside, let me tell you guys, if the guys are trapped inside, how are you going to extract them? You're going to cut the car, isn't it?
Yes.
You have to cut the car, but you gotta know the points to cut the car. You gotta be trained to know that you're handling an electrical car. This is not a conventional car where you just cut the car from nowhere. Yes, because you're gonna cut through the high voltage battery.
No.
And you're gonna electrocute yourself.
Okay, in
So
that
you
case,
gotta yes.
I think that the training aspect
of the battery involved. We know that LFP is more stable when it comes to explosion rather than the lithium-ion battery. The lithium phosphate battery is more stable. And again, if we are weighing the impact of the accident, just like the same impact with a gasoline vehicle, you won't even be able to rescue anybody. There will be explosion instantly. The oil will splash all over and there will be serious fire. Unlike, so I believe that the risk is relatively smaller than gasoline vehicle.
You're breaking all. I can't even hear things.
What
I didn't even hear things.
Okay,
yeah.
What he's saying is that you see, the lithium ion phosphate batteries, we know that this risk of explosion is taken care of.
Excuse me?
Lithium ion phosphate batteries, as opposed to the NCA, nickel, cobalt, aluminum, and coal. Okay. Wait, I think Taurai has also gone off. Yeah, Taurai. So I was saying, don't worry. It's all part of life. This is Africa, huh?
Yeah, it's Africa.
Yeah. So
we're talking about lithium not exploding, like it's not a high risk of explosion.
No, I say not lithium. You know, the lithium ion batteries, there are various chemistries. All right. Now, the Chinese decided to go back to lithium ferrophosphate or lithium iron phosphate batteries. All right, which are cheaper and more stable. All right, so there's less of a fire hazard with them compared to the other lithium ion chemistries. That was one thing that Olukokun was talking about. Number one. Then number two, I don't know whether maybe this is maybe more my point, is that you see, we cannot plan for a non-existent system. All right. Our first responders, by and large, don't exist. If we are saying that people need to be taught, the knowledge need to be put out there, okay? That for EVs, when you as they want to cut, avoid the battery systems, is it pink wires? Because these are high voltage, they are dangerous. That's a damn problem. But to now say that we are coming to teach first responders who themselves is a 50-50 coin toss, if whether they will appear at an accident point or not. That will make the whole conversation iffy. Okay.
What did you say?
It's possible. It's not that it's not possible, but we are trying to inform the people for a specific purpose. Is that also good?
Yeah.
Now, one thing I've observed, which my fellow West Africans may not have realized, is that I think that Southern Africa, when it comes to things like first responders, they seem to function a bit better than in the West and Central Africa. Because a lot of times, if there's an accident, people will transfer injured people into other cars or taxis and send them to the hospital. I hope you understand. I
understand.
Most instances, 70 to 80% of the time, but 90% of the time, Okay, you will not see an accident with paramedics, sorry, an ambulance with paramedics coming to a site of an accident to extract people. It is the people around who gather. They always, okay, let's take the people out. Then before that, the police will come in. I hope you understand. That is why, yeah. That's why there's that pushback. Is it because we are talking about Africa? All right. So we must also look at the least common denominator. It's not acceptable, but we must start from that point and then project forward. But if we want to start from the ideal, it's going to create problems for us. Because by this definition, my country Ghana will be ready.
So let me say this again. We have to come up with our own way, but putting safety first. We have to find a way. We have to find a way. We have to find a way. We will find a way. If like the scenario you just told me about the West, because of the crowded and all that, because I see they actually use motorbikes and that kind of stuff. You know, it's kind of going to
fail systems.
Yes, I see. But we have to come up with a way to have, to make sure there's safety. Safety is paramount for people, because let's not forget that these cars are dangerous. If they electrocute you, if you know Ohm's law, it's as simple as that. Yes. Let's just talk about the 400 volts. The 400 volt battery, let's say the one that's on Nissan Leaf. A human body's resistance is 1,000 ohms.
Yes.
So if you are electrocuted by a 400 volt battery, even 1,000 ohms, there's going to be there's going to be 400 milliamps of current that's going to pass through your body. That's enough to fry your heart in 500 milliseconds. There's no one who's going to save you. Like, let me just emphasize again. Everyone who has been electrocuted by an electrical car, he has died in the world. There's nobody who's out there who has been electrocuted by an electrical car and says they survived the electrocution. So that's how dangerous it is. When I went to training knowing very well the dangers the car causes. And I've read articles of incidents that are not even reported. That happened. You know, we're talking about a guy who was electrocuted in Germany. He was having a watch, a wristwatch, and there was 20,000, whatever the arc, the temperature degrees of the arc that happened. That's 20,000 degrees of arc that happened with the high voltage system. Yes, he died on the spot. So I don't know how we can emphasize this and at the same time try to move with technology. But we can do that if we can teach our own people. Training, that's why I'm always advocating for training. It's better to teach someone, because there's no time to save someone who's electrocuted by an electrical car. We've got that is the standard that you're supposed to have in your workshop. But you don't have time to go and get the hook stick, because it's going to take half a second or less for someone to be electrocuted and die. So you don't have time to save them. The only way you can save them is to train them to understand the dangers and how to avoid the danger.
You know, what I'm trying to say. Now, this is something that's come up. There is the knowledge. For Africa, it's simple. There is a knowledge for the masses. Then there is the knowledge for the ecosystem players. Do you get what I'm saying? Okay? We don't have to first respond this. Everybody in Africa who is electricity knows that electricity can be dangerous. That is why you don't see people going to hang on high voltage pylons. All right?
Because
yes, we do a lot of crazy stuff on our continent, as you are well aware. But people don't do that. Because nobody wants to die. Okay? So it can be as easy as telling people that, listen, for an electric car, these batteries are high voltage systems. If you see a pink wire in an EV, don't touch it. Simple. Exactly. There is nothing complicated about it. Now, when it comes
you're talking.
Yes. You see, but it has to come out, because you see, the perspective you're coming from is very, very important. All right.
Yeah.
Now, there are Africans who have stayed outside for long. They have even forgotten how things are here.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Now, the critical thing where the training ought to be focused is the active ecosystem players. Because if you're talking about safety, there are standards bodies who set the safety standards. Is that also these organs of government ought to know, and they
Yes.
are the ones number one target for some of these trainings. Then,
Yes.
of course, we can talk about the first responders, those that we have, those the ones that we have, about upscaling them. Then, of course, the mechanics,
Yes, exactly. Technician.
people, the technicians.
Yes.
Fine,
Yes.
but we cannot. If you conflate the two, I can bet you that in the next 80 years, we will die our both with what? We will never be ready for EVs.
Yes.
All right.
So that's why I'm always advocating for training. Training means awareness. Tell people, teach people. You know what I mean? If we are to get along this with technology, if we are to catch up with technology, we gotta know as much. So we need, just like me, I don't have time to sleep much. I sleep 5 hours. I'll be studying all the time because I'm behind. I realize that I'm way behind. You know what I mean? So we need to be trained all the time, every time. Like there's a saying that we do when we are in the States or we are at Vision Tech training, that if you don't update, you evaporate. Knowledge is the key, is important. So just like people don't realize that these electrical cars, we have now close to 30 electrical cars in Zimbabwe. We also have about almost 70 hybrid cars here in Zimbabwe. And people don't realize what they're driving. They don't know. So what's going to happen one day? They're doing a braai somewhere on they're out there drinking beer, doing their braai. They will decide to clean the car using pressure cleaner. You know what I mean? That's the electric car. They don't realize that it's an electric car. You don't put water in there. You know what I mean? So it's just common sense because they don't know. So what I'm saying is we need to spread the word and tell people what it is, what we are dealing with.
Okay. Now let's zoom in on training. All right.
Yeah, can you allow me?
Okay, please.
With SONAM does low voltage vehicle, 60 volts, 72 volts, low speed vehicle, like you call them, and they're actually working very well. Because of cost and all of these things, Africa might not be exposed to a higher speed, higher voltage electric vehicle at first. So with these low voltage vehicles coming in now, for us to get used to all of these systems, it will be a very, very good time to keep educating people that, okay, some other ones are coming that are higher voltage that can kill instantly, even more than your electricity, the ones you have at home and all of that. You know what I'm saying? Because over time, we've been able to understand that cost is a major driver for the adoption of electric vehicles in Africa in particular. So because of that, the likes of SONAM have been able to fashion a way of making really, really affordable vehicles, but by trading away some stuff, they are low voltage. The IC has 72 volts. And these are things you actually, afford to be careless with. So I believe we still have time for us to get used to this technology and get to know how the best practices in handling them when the time comes. That's my contribution.
Thank you so much, all. I appreciate the input.
Anyway, so when it comes to training, you are a master EV technician. What are the various components of an electric vehicle that let's say somebody who wants to be a master technician needs to be trained on or needs to understand what are the major subsystems?
Okay. So a normal vehicle, like a conventional vehicle, is 8 systems. So with the electrical car, I haven't counted the systems really. I'm not thinking about that, but there are components, there are systems on an electrical car that are very much the same with the ones that are on the conventional vehicle. Steering, suspension, steering, suspension in a way, you know, your brakes in a way, air conditioning, but in a way, like we mentioned that with the points that I've written here about all this, but there is the high voltage side that people need to understand much better. And being a master technician means you know all the systems, and all the systems interlink in a way. So you have to understand that a hybrid or electrical car can start to test the brakes or whatever, you know, anytime, even if the key fob is not even around. So you have to understand when you are servicing the vehicle that you got to put it in the service mode, that kind of stuff. So you are now understanding the other side, even though you are a technician who does brakes, you have to understand how this high voltage system works so that you'll be working on the brakes safely. So for someone to be a master technician, they have to understand the high voltage system, which comprises of the DC converter. This is more like your alternator on a conventional vehicle. That's the one that changes the high voltage DC to low voltage DC to charge the conventional battery that is on an electrical car, or auxiliary components like lights and all that kind of stuff, and you know, the 12-volt system. Then we have your inverter. If an electric car has got 2 motors, it's got 2 inverters. So every motor has got an inverter. So the inverter, its job is to change the DC into 3-phase AC to run the electric motor when you're driving. Then on the regeneration, the electric motor is driving the other way around through kinetic energy. Then it harnesses the energy. Then it starts driving the electric motor reverse way. So now the inverter is changing the AC 3-phase high voltage to DC high voltage to charge the
to put back into the battery.
Yeah, back into the battery. So basically, that's the system that you understand. So with the electrical cars now, they've introduced on the HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, if you may say. So the compressor, the AC compressor, is now a high voltage 3-phase AC motor. You know, so there's some of them that have got an inverter embedded inside. You might see the 2-volt, the 2 wires for the DC volt going into the compressor, and you might think it's a DC compressor, and yet inside there is an inverter. It's embedded inside. It changes the DC to AC to run the AC compressor. You know, it's all high voltage as well.
So,
you know,
question. Our normal mechanics that we have, who maybe are taught through apprenticeship, if a mechanic like that, and which is the majority of African mechanics, wants to understand these EV systems, because we are thinking about organizing such training programs in various African countries so that people can come and learn. So if these people want to come with their current knowledge about ICE vehicles, what are the things that they need to learn? Because these people, maybe they don't need to learn about transmission, they don't need to learn about whatnot. The basics they already know. It is the extra stuff.
Okay. So, you know, they know a conventional car, a normal car. They want to upgrade themselves to be a hybrid or electrical car technician. Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay. So the high voltage system is a totally different ballgame altogether. You gotta know your electronics and electrical. So basically, when you are training, like in the States, when you are being certified, you gotta have what they call A1, which is engine mechanical. You gotta understand how an engine works, because sometimes you're gonna work on a hybrid. Hybrid has got an engine, the ICE. So you have to know your electrical and electronics, which they call A6. Then you gotta know your engine performance. So the other two I'm talking about, they normally work hand in hand because of ICE, when there's an ICE there. If there's no ICE, then we really need to talk about the guy who's electrical and electronics technician. So once you understand electrical and electronics, then it's easy for you to understand how a DC-DC converter works. And all they need to understand is the principles and the fundamentals of how a hybrid car works, how it changes the high voltage system, high voltage DC to AC to run the motor. It's as simple as that, the transition. So basically, I would urge them to start electrical and electronics. Once you know your Ohm's law, you know your transistors, because normally we're talking about IGBTs. Without the phenomenon of the IGBTs, we're not going to achieve this phenomenon anyway.
What is
so
IGBT? Can you show us something to a prop?
Yeah. I was going to come to that because abbreviation, that's it's crazy. So it's integrated get bipolar transistors. Can you hear me? Because
Yes. No. Is it? I'm thinking. Because Sammy, how many of our mechanics do you think understands the word transistor?
Well, let me tell you one thing. Let me tell you again. A transistor. A transistor is a solid state switch. It's like a switch. It's a switch, but it's a switch.
But switch. I'm saying that how many of our mechanics?
Yes. They will have to. They will have to so that they can work on this car. But sometimes you don't need to understand how it really works. But you gotta grasp that when you're doing diagnostics.
Yeah.
You gotta know that when you want to fix the vehicle one day.
I would say that.
Okay. All right.
We have some of our fuel cars already. With the onboard electronics. But I mean, going forward, the mechanics will just have to reskill and learn more about what the electricians know. So that's where so it's basically the mechanics learning more from the electricians, and like they know how to pick up on some of these things. They know how to pick up on them.
Yeah, because we've got transistors even with the drivers, like
we have
injectors, the coils. The coils have got transistors inside the computer. They normally diagnose those if you have trained to diagnose this even conventional vehicles with computer control systems. So if you know what you just need to understand, they just need to understand that a IGBT is a fast switching, a high voltage, high current switch than the one that is in your computer, which is switching on the injector. That one is low current, low voltage.
Can I bridge the gap?
Hello? Huh?
Yeah, okay, so coming from the background of both mechanical and electrical, I think we need to separate what our mechanics and electricians will have to do. If you ask a mechanic to start learning about transistors and all of that, you're wasting his time, big time. You see, in Nigeria here, people we call rewires, and actually their work is mostly auto electricity, or the electrical system in the vehicle, and they are different from mechanics. Mechanics will deal with the ICE vehicle, the plugs, the engine, the oil filter, the injector, and all of that. Why the rewires deals with all the ECU, brain box, or the electrical parts. So if you ask this rewire in questions again to start learning about basic electrics, you are wasting their time as well, except those are interested. An example of one of my students that is in mechatronics engineering department and does this auto electricity for people. He works so much on hybrid vehicles, he has been able to transition into reprogramming some of these hybrid vehicles and all of that. He's one of my students and one of the key people I'm thinking of bringing to my team. So for someone like me, I understand transistors, I understand IGBTs. In fact, those are what I've been working on all of this while. You understand it? So if you would train people on all of those things, you might not need to take them through the basic electronics. You might just need to show them modules that, okay, if you take of module and it doesn't give you 5 volts or 20 volts, that means something is wrong with the system. You might need to send it back to the electrician so that there will be a system whereby you'll be able to say, okay, this is what is wrong with this system. Let me send it back to you, and you give it back to me. Then the ecosystem will have to train people that will specially be involved in troubleshooting the system, these modules, and all of that to actually change the transistor if it's faulty, if it's IGBT that are burnt off, change it, and all of that. Then send it back to these people that will fix it into places. So we need to start separating the knowledge.
Olukokun, I think your line is breaking, but I think Olukokun has just hit the nail right in the head.
So what was he saying?
No, what his point was that, you see, there are the mechanics, then there are the electrical guys. All right. So you see that in our auto mechanic shops across the continent, you have people who are specialized in electrical parts. Really understand electricals, and some even understand electronics. Then there are those who are into the mechanical parts. These are the mechanics that we normally call. Okay. So what he is saying is that these mechanics, you can show them, you can teach them basic stuff. That, oh, if let's say this part is a problem with it, and when you test it, you are getting 15 volts. That means that something is wrong. Okay. So basic diagnostics. Now that person will now refer the thing to maybe the electrical stroke electronics guy, who then, because of his knowledge and his extra training, can now do a deep dive into the problem to find out, okay, so what's the problem, and then fix the problem and send it back to the auto mechanic to maybe install that component back into the vehicle. This is so that now we have various streams of training. Okay.
So what now have is that, again, I was responding to your question, like if I'm to tell someone to be a master tech, because basically I believe that if we are to go far, we need to we need to train our technicians up to a master tech status, whereby they kind of know almost everything in a way. Because the electrical car it's just an electrical car. If you can't fix, there's no differentiation as such in the system, because it's all high voltage system with a full electric car. So if the time they start delegating the job to someone else, it becomes costly now. That someone else has to do the job that he can be taught to do. Because you can actually upgrade them, they can slowly learn that. They can do that. You can be a master tech because it's basically understanding the basics and try and go ahead and do the advanced. Because you can't just stay doing the basics and just testing and you say my job is done. You've got 15 volts in that. I understand what a technician doesn't do is to open an ECM. That's not what we're talking about. It's off the chart. We're not talking about fixing. So I was talking about a technician being taught how to diagnose that an ECM is wrong. So that's where you have this knowledge to know how a transistor works. You need that so that you'll be able to know what to test. It's something that they can be taught. You know, if you do advanced or fundamental, they're done. Then you do advanced, and then they can do that.
Okay.
A technician.
This training, let's just bring it down. Okay. So the basic, for example, how long averagely will it take? Is it 1 day, 1 week, 1 month?
To teach fundamental electronic fundamentals.
Yes.
It depends on how much they can grasp. They can.
Okay, somebody of average intelligence.
Or someone who's good enough. I think a 7-day intensive training, they'll be there.
Okay. So
because you'll be doing hands-on. Because you gotta do hands-on at the same time. You do theory and do hands-on so that you can actually enforce that. Because they gotta do the training itself using the stuff, the components, those dangerous components. Those are the ones that you teach them with.
Okay. So it's not what we know African education, where the teacher will just come and talk, and show you diagrams and go.
He doesn't wait much, he just goes. He just comes here and goes through the other ear. But that's why I went for the internship. That's why people go for this training in Worcester, because they do hands-on training 7 days. You do theory in 2-3 hours, then you go to the car. Then you do what you've been doing on theory, you'll be doing on the car. So it's easy for you now to, yeah.
Okay, so if you are in Nigeria or Ghana, Kenya, just know that we are trying to see how we can come up with something along those lines. Because we need the ecosystem to work. That's the most important thing.
Let's do training again. Let's do training, and you tell me something in the next 6 months. Let's just train our techs, and you tell me what they're capable of doing so much more than you can even imagine. Let's train them. Let's give them the technology. Let's give them the tool to work with. This is that. Let's give them the tool. They don't have it now.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Olukokun, I'm very sorry. I think that your line is very bad. Your line is very bad. So we will have to jump you to another for another time. But I think we have to rest it here for today. We have to do a part 2. Of late, it seems that every conversation we have, they have to be a part 2 because there is so much to cover. There is so much opportunity. There's so much opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Taurai, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Gad.
It has been very interesting. We'll have part 2.